Hey, Beer Money, it's Doug with Jessie, Petro, multi-time Grand National two-wheel drive champion, and we are at GMS in Hamilton, Ohio. He works for Brent. He is the shipping coordinator. Is that the
Sure.
So we've spent a couple days here with these guys, awesome people. And we just figured while we're here, we're going to get a little history lesson on the Petro Motorsports. So, when did your dad start?
He started in 1977 or 78 with a four-wheel drive, naturally aspirated and stuff, and then just kind of progressed from there. And then in the late 80s, built a two-wheel drive. Him and a neighbor friend of his, Gary, my mom and Gary's wife, both were named Kathy, and so that's where the name Kathy's Complaint come from. And my dad and Gary remained friends, until my dad passed, and so that's kind of how the name got there. And now I just drive the truck, and it's my mom's Complaint, but but no, she my dad and I said it all the whole time that my mom likes pulling way more than what he did and what I do, but it's just what we've done and what we know how to do.
Right. You guys have had a modified in the past, correct?
Yeah, we ran a multi-engine modified from 1996 to 2006. With 3, 4, and then the last one had 6 engines on it. And then we also campaigned 2 two-wheel drives at the time.
That's a lot.
And at that time frame, we were pretty busy trucking. We had several trucks on the road. So when we decided to park the two-wheel drive or the modified, we still ran the two-wheel drives. But not on the Grand National circuit for a couple of years, and then we came back in 09 and ran the Grand National circuit, and that's when we was fortunate enough to start the decade-long streak that I'm really proud of.
So you guys won 10 years consecutively?
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah. So that was
same truck?
Nope. 3 different trucks actually. So that's something that was even more. More, I won't say impressive, but, a feat that we was even more proud of was to do it with multiple different vehicles.
What was your success with the mod?
He was second and runner-up several times in the mod and the unlimited class. He won the Bowling Green Ring a couple times in a couple of different classes. So, that was... The Polar 2000 tire was just starting to take hold, when we were getting out of it, and that was a lot of it because there was no way we could make weight, hold the front end down, and things like that with that tire, changing. That tire changed modified pulling like the Mitas did, 3 years ago, in this generation. So,
always run Hemis?
No, the modified had Chevrolets on it. Just for weight reasons, but other than that, we've always had Aries or now the Minor Brothers stuff. So we never had any Chryslers. I don't want to say I refuse to work on them, but when you work on an MBR and then you go work on a Chrysler, you'll throw stones at that Chrysler unless it's a new style Noonan or something that's essentially the same thing as an MBR. So they've made them much more easier to service and to take apart and put back together. But we've had obviously very good luck and success. Bob and now Adam Kester, we had a long-standing relationship with them, and this stuff is very dependable and could always get parts and pieces and just work really well in our application.
Right. So yesterday, if I remember right, you said you have 5 two-wheel drives in the stable right now?
Yeah, that's what we've ran. Yeah. Technically, there's 8 in the shop right now, but we've ran 5 since my dad passed away. We've ran 3 on the NTPA Grand National Circuit, and then 2 with Chad Mayhill on the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League. So, and then we still have my dad's, the original Caddy's Complaint. It's still in the shop, essentially complete other than an engine. And then we have a new chassis that's done. My daughter thinks it's hers, so she put a sticker on it that has her name on it. So
How old's your daughter?
She's 7. Yep, 7. So she's
a little ways to go.
That's what she asks me about every month when I'm going to start working on her truck, and I tell her, honey, we got a few years before we got to really focus on it. But and then we still own the original 2-timing. It was actually on lease to some good friends of mine, Carl and Don Odell and Kenny Lucas of the Fantasy blown 4-wheel drive fame. They was interested in changing classes, trying something new, and that truck was sitting there, and I knew we wasn't going to run it just because of our schedule. Right. So they took it and put their engine in it, my blower and stuff, and they didn't get it out till early August or so, and never finished out of the top 5 on the OSTPA, and they did really, really well with it, and they did a good job. They're good pullers, and that blown 4-wheel drive class will make you a good driver, because otherwise you'll beat your head against the wall, the ceiling of them trucks. So they did a really good job with it. It's a good truck. There was just some things that when it was built that it makes it a little bit harder to load and unload and get on and off the scales is the only real reason why we replaced it, to make it a little bit more serviceable and a little bit ease of,
when you've got
of
5
transportation.
or 8 trucks to keep running, serviceability is key.
Yeah, for sure. So they've done a good job with that, and I think they're going to run it again next year until they get one built, of their own. So these days it is a little tougher to get parts and pieces lined up in a normal manner time wise. So that's that works out good, and they're only 15 miles away. So if it's not bad to run over there and help, or if they need something to come over, right. Things like that.
So your pulling career started at what age?
I was actually 17. Started in 1998. And
so you didn't start on garden tractors or
nope.
anything? You just
nope. The first truck I ever drove is Buckeye Holler. Yeah. Yep. The one in its current state. Yep. So that was the first one. So it's been a good one, that's for sure.
What have you seen since 1998? 18 years, 17 years?
Almost 25 years.
No, yeah, my math.
Yeah. Yeah.
What changes in the 2-wheel drive class have you, the big changes?
Like I'm going to say the last 7 or 8 years, it's the competition has gotten better. Everybody essentially has the equipment that they can win any night. So when that happens, when you have a class that everybody has enough horsepower to win, so then it becomes the differences in the details. Right. And that's where, and Brent and I talk a lot about it, it's like in your setup sheets and stuff, and how much attention you pay. So I feel like the 2-wheel drive class has paid more attention, whether we force their hand to pay attention or not, to some extent. So, once you learn your vehicle, and then you can move forward, because I might be moving weight, and it doesn't mean anything to you, you know what I mean? Right. So, once people realize that they have to learn their vehicle, and there's only one way to learn what your vehicle does, and that's go pull. Right. It's not on a dyno. And it's just.
So you said you've run the same chassis, so there isn't that.
No, yeah, that's the same chassis, and we've replaced chassis that we thought were tired, but the style that our trucks are, we bought the jig that built Buckeye Hauler and 2-timing. We purchased that jig, and then since then we've built the new Kathy's Complaint P5 and the new 2-timing as well.
So are those wedge chassis or tube chassis?
They're tube chassis. Yeah, they are essentially a hump coast style, out of tube.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's just what we went with, and
obviously it works.
yeah, right, and anything will work. The wedge absolutely works. And there's characteristics about both that do shine from day to day, night to night, that you have to learn what it likes and what it doesn't like, and then there's the variables that you have no control over. The number draw. The guy in front of me broke a blower belt at 200 feet, so I get the double roll from 200 to 350. You know what I mean? There's so much of the stuff that you can't see if you're not there in real person, and you look at the results sheet on that piece of paper or on that computer screen and you're like, geez, he got his butt kicked by 15 feet. I wonder what happened. But when you're there and then you see what's going on in certain circumstances, right, then it's a much more clear picture. So, when there's, it doesn't matter where you're at, if it's a PPL hook or an NTPA region or a Grand National hook, when there's 10 to 30 good trucks there, it's
almost too many. 30's almost too many.
Oh, it absolutely is. But, we're just as guilty as anybody, because, there was times where we ran 4 trucks full time. So, and then on the flip side of that is, there was times where we would go region pulling and there would be 6 or 8 trucks there and we'd have 4 of them. Well, it's tough because you don't want those pulls to go away.
Right.
If you want to go someplace to test something or to try something, but it's also hard to, especially like now, there is no weekday hardly pulling for us. With my dad gone, it's me, and I'm here, about as much as I can be in the summer. So, we gotta, manage our time a little bit differently, so it makes it tough to get away that many days in a row.
Are tires as big an issue in the 2-wheel drive class as they are in the big tire, Mitas versus the whole shots and the issues that come about with the mini tires?
It wasn't, and then obviously Russ and his brother come out with a tire right there at the end of the year, and Russ is a good puller, and he's going to win his fair share of pulls regardless of what tire he has on. So I kind of think it's funny that the tire gets all the credit. But then again, the tire always gets the blame too.
Right.
That's the first thing people change when they don't do good. It's like, oh, it's got to be the tires. And Chad and I joke about that all the time. And it's like, it's I guess that's human nature, because that's the first thing you see when you look at a vehicle, So, but I don't know what next year will bring. What that tire will do, won't do. I know Chad's constantly making, trying to make improvements, to his tire.
The mini tires, there was such a fine line. You get a rubber that's going to hold up a little bit, and it takes some of the drivability away till people figure out what needs to be done to it.
Right.
They cursed those tires for a couple of years.
Oh yeah, and they still do. There's several of them that still do, and I think at some point when they realize that that's more than likely what they're going to have to run, if they would just figure them out instead of taking them off after 1 or 2 runs, to realize that it is a better tire, and it's a more serviceable tire, and it's going to last longer. That's something that they'll have to, it is a learning curve,
right?
And it doesn't matter what class it is. It could be the whole shots, or it could be the Mitos's. You could insert any name brand tire that's going to be, produced and put on a pulling track. It's going to take some learning curve, and I think, and it is hard to be patient. I understand that, what I mean, because
instant gratification.
You bet. And the problem is there's not, you can go test at a local pull, a region pull, what have you, but the vehicle will go down the track, but until you're in competition, you don't necessarily know, because every night's different. The track's different every night. The sled's different every night. So, to blame just the tire because you didn't do good that night, that's rarely the case that it's the tire's fault.
Right.
It's either the driver, it's the combination of gear ratio, tire pressure, weight balance, your draw. There's so many things that are in play that affect the outcome of the distance that, to blame it on one thing is silly in my eyes, but, it happens all the time.
So what do you think, what is your feeling, does the key to winning a championship year after year? Consistency? Just keep it?
Yeah. So, I get extremely aggravated. I would rather get 3rd, 4th, and 5th than 1st and 12th. That drives me crazy. Just because I would rather be more consistent.
Yeah.
And it is hard, and it goes back to the variables in play when there's a big class, things like that can change. When you have different drivers, that obviously can affect the results too. So, the pulling world has changed a little bit with the lack of pull-offs, so that kind of affects the way the vehicle gets run in some classes. How hard you can lean on them, right, knowing you're only going to make one run a night instead of 2. So. I think that's changed the landscape a little bit. But
what's your preference?
I don't think that there's a need for a pull-off every night. But when you get to the big events, that it'll level the playing field some of the hero runs, or the test hook runs, or at the end of the track, or the end of the class runs, where if the track changes some, if somebody makes a good run early in the class and the track does get better, they might have a shot at it if you only bring back the top 3 or 5, right, for a pull-off. So I think there is a place for them, but not every night, and it doesn't need to happen at the region and state level when there's only 8 or 10 vehicles there to begin with in the class. So, it's...
Donnie Bauer and I talked about that when we did our interview, and Friday night of Bowling Green, they have 3 or 5 of the pro stocks back. Mm-hmm. I mean, that place was nuts.
Oh yeah,
the pull-off.
I mean, you can read what you want to on the internet in the pulling pages, but people get excited when there's a pull-off, and people get excited when them vehicles go past 300 feet, right, fast. So is 400 feet too far? Yeah, it probably is. But like at the Enderley this year, I think I went 370 some feet, almost 380, something like that. And I mean, it was a fast run. So the people who talk about what's wrong with 290 to 300, well, there isn't really anything wrong with 290 to 300, but from a fan standpoint of view, that run that goes 330 to 350 is faster, and it's right, way more exciting for the fans in the stands.
And that's pretty much, people say that about it's harder on a motor to go 350. They're consuming the same amount of fuel. It's right.
You put a stopwatch on a 350 feet run and a 295 feet run.
They're the same.
I mean, it's just all it is it's math,
right?
You know what I mean? It's just a stopwatch, and you can every night I watch pulling videos from, and it's not just our videos. I watch stuff from out west and the Outlaws and the East Coast stuff, because you can see things and hear things that sometimes you get so absorbed in your own situation that you don't see things the way you should. And it's even like that with other classes. I'll watch a different class and look, and see, well, that truck stopped because of this, or he didn't go as far because of this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it still can pertain to your vehicle too. So there's plenty to learn from watching videos and studying.
So you mentioned you've done the NTPA, you've done PPL. Have you ever journeyed west and run with the Outlaws?
No, we never did. Just how it worked out
Right.
schedule wise. You know, there's just, you know, we're pretty fortunate where we live is the heart and
Right.
a heart of truck and tractor pulling. You know, so we don't have to drive very far and we can find a pull. You know, and that was kind of always our thing. You know, my dad was pretty you know, cash conscious, and you know, fuel bill and things like that. You know, if we don't need to go someplace far away, we're not going to. You know, and we were fortunate enough to where we live, we could about wear our equipment out and not have to drive, you know, but a few hours. So, but those guys are good competitors. You know, obviously we see them at the farm show a lot, and they come and they do very well, and they're very dedicated. I'll give them that, because some of those guys travel a long way,
right?
You know, every weekend to cross the map to run that circuit. So that's
Texas.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So you know, we're kind of spoiled around here. You know, we can go pull in a lot of places, you know, close to home, and you know, when we went to Dodge City, Kansas this summer, it was a long way out there, but I mean, it was a nice trip. You know what I mean? The roads are flat, and you know, it's I'd probably rather drive to Dodge City than I would the East Coast any day. You know, so you know, and it's good to pull at different places. You know, you know, if it's going to be a national organization, and you know, we do need to branch out of Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. You know, some to try to expand. You know, once or twice a year to you know, to branch out.
Where's your favorite place to go pull?
I don't think there is one, honestly. You know, I don't know if I can say, because I'm a nitpicker. So like,
there's always something about somebody that's,
you know, I can pick apart about any pull, you know, and there's a lot of good about a lot of pulls. It really is. You know, and I think I've done it long enough that I just, you know, I've been there and done that enough that it's, I don't want to say the luster's wore off, but you know, we just we pull, and we go home. You know, so but there's a lot of nice events out there that we pull at, and or you know, we see on, you know, on film or on TV and stuff, you know, that are good events, and you know, a lot of the promoters work really hard at promoting the events, regardless of whether it's you know, it has a puller tied to the event or not, you know, and that's what we need. You know, we need promoters, and we need, you know, towns and cities that do want that event to come.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you drive through town and you see signs and you see restaurants that have, you know, welcome pullers or welcome fans, you know, stuff like that, you know, that's appreciative, and that's good to see, because obviously it is an economic impact, you know, to Toma, Wisconsin, to Bowling Green, Ohio, you know what I mean, to places like that, because, you know, we do try to go to eat at their restaurants and go to the gas station and buy, you know, ice and things like that, you know, so you know, it's a very, you know, big deal to a lot of those towns, and to be able to go there and have the support from the community, it's huge.
Right. So you'd mentioned before we started that you were fortunate to go to Europe as well as Brett, just one time?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Me and a good friend of mine, Jeff Agala at JDF Performance, he does our fuel system work, and I've known Jeff a long time, and we went over there with the Intertechno team. They have a Volkswagen two-wheel drive, and we went over there with them and went to Fuchtorf, Germany, where the Kloss Green Monster team is based out of, and went to that pull. And it was a neat experience. You know, I'm definitely glad I went. I would like to go back at some point, you know, and see that. We watched a lot of the film and stuff from over there, and it's just it's crazy how they can create an event in the middle of a field, you know, and have that kind of you know, crowd appeal and the energy that the crowd, you know, and the event provide. It's pretty neat to see.
Are the two-wheel drives in Europe pretty close to
They're
our
similar.
class?
Yeah, they're similar. They run a little bit different weight. They're a little bit lighter. from what I can remember. So, but otherwise, the components and stuff are pretty similar. You know, tires, you know, engines, things like that are real similar. Yeah. So.
Have you ever driven anything besides a two-wheel drive?
Driven a blown four-wheel drive a couple times. I drove Fantasy for Carl and Donna Riddell. She was away on business a couple times, and Carl and Kenny asked me to drive it for them, and it I felt like it made me a better two-wheel drive driver. Those things are very finicky and very hard to get that kind of power down to those small tires.
Right.
So you know, definitely have to show a lot of finesse with those. So other than that, that's been it.
So I know at lunch we were talking about mini rods, and I got your feeling on that. Do you have a desire to drive anything else?
Not really, no.
Even if somebody said, "Here's the keys," you don't have to fix it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just
I mean, I would probably drive a big mod, but I really don't have any desire to drive a mini rod or a super stock open.
Yeah.
Or I kid with Brent and these guys when I get on these things and move them around, like, you can't even see over top of the hood, like, you know. So, but you know, maybe a big mod, you know, Keith or Ricky's tractor, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, a 4-engine deal, or even a 2-engine. Hopefully that class might come around and again and be a good stepping stone to bring some new life to the mod class, and you know, and be a stepping stone,
Right.
you know, up to the big class.
Well, we thank you for your time, and we'll chat again.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.